and trust in the process of this company. There are so many things that is happening all over the world. There are so many good things, I should say, especially in places like Italy, especially in places like Japan, especially in places like Latin America, Africa. There are so many good things, and for good things for us to really celebrate, literally, right? And we are holding this vision of Dr. Ruja with the One Academy. We are trusting this process because we are a company that went through so many things, and yet we are still here. I would always like to really reiterate that fact, that where other companies have more or less fallen by the wayside, we are still here. And we are here with a purpose, we are here with meaning, and of course we are here to affect lives. We have today 3 fantastic speakers coming in on this session. Of course, we have London, as I said, 2 fantastic speakers from London who will give their testimony. We also have someone from our One Academy core team of the Caribbean who will do a short presentation. And that is basically just to show how the One Academy is literally affecting him and what they're saying about this whole situation that is taking place right now. Right? So, you know, we look forward to that. And of course, we would have King James wrapping up everything at the end. So there's some updates. Of course, the fishing has been removed, as was said last week, from OneLife and also from the One Academy. So that is still so. We have some celebrations has to take place. We have 2 new country managers. Fantastic. One out of Uruguay, Miss Romania Pumba from Uruguay. And we also have from Chile, Mr. Christian Doherty. So we must give a hearty, and I have to do this, we must give a hearty round of applause. So, with that being said, our first speaker today, before I get into that, we also have, of course, that 10K promotions that we have going on with the company. Please look into that, get your teams activated with this promotion. That is fantastic. And of course, we have...
No, I said the captain may give more details.
Yeah, so the captain will give more details on that. So please get your teams activated with that 10K promotion. It's only for a limited time, and it's literally there coinciding, of course, with Dr. Ruja's birthday, as well as the super split that we have coming up. Okay, so today, first up is someone who we are very fond of. As I said, on the One Academy core team, no other than Mr. Alvin Morton, who is an avid One Academite. Avid. He does a lot of research. He hosts and also presents on our daily Lunch and Learn One Academy Zoom calls. And he is someone who really is liked by everyone in the community because he brings a certain flair to the presentation that he does. All right, so he would just do just about a 15-minute presentation with this new format that we are having, of course, featuring the One Academy, and we would like to get more people involved in the One Academy. It's a fantastic product. It is the heart, as Dr. Ruja said, of this fantastic company, and there's a reason why. In my estimation, the One Academy and the material from the One Academy actually gives the blueprint of how this company rolls out their vision. And if you notice, the people who are not in a One Academy, it's easy for them to lose their identity when it comes to the vision of the company. But once you understand exactly what the information is, you now take that and really proceed with this fantastic purpose that we have to affect one life at a time. So first up, as I said, is Mr. Alvin Morton, coming out of Trinidad, who is also someone that basically is very professional in everything that he does. He's an engineer by nature. And again, he has been in the One Academy and One Life for the past 3 years and has added so much value to the Caribbean team. So I introduce to you Mr. Alvin Morton, coming out of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Morton, are you there, sir? You could unmute your mic. All right, you're muted.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Mr. Co-Captain and host. A pleasant good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of us, 250 plus present today. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you with respect to the One Academy. Folks, this has been indeed the heart of my journey for the last 3 years, because I became an IMA in April of 2017. And permit me to invent a new word, perspectivize. The One Academy has enabled me to literally add perspective to much of the things that I've studied. There are things that I've studied, passed exams and didn't understand, and there are things that I've understood without the need for an exam to be passed. And perhaps each one of us in our own way can relate to those two scenarios. All right. Permit me to share my screen, because I think that will add context to how the One Academy has affected me and how it continues to affect me. Okay, I'm being challenged to share my screen, host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, I'm still unable to share my screen, Ivan. I'm not sure why.
Okay, we try to promote you to co-host. I was having a little difficulty in doing that myself.
I see. Okay, in the meantime, what I will be sharing is an adaptation of a presentation I did for the Lunch and Learn One Academy session about 2 to 3 weeks ago. It's just about 8 slides. There is a video of which only 2 or 3 minutes I would share in the interest of time. It is now 9:10 or thereabouts.
Elvin, sorry to interrupt, Elvin. You are set as a co-host. You are able to share your screen now.
Okay,
Ivan,
great.
you can set the next speaker as a co-host so that they can share their PowerPoint. Because I do not know who is your speaker tonight.
Okay, thanks.
Elvin, you can do so now. Thanks. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And in the words of Chris Cuomo of Cuomo Prime Time, let's get after it. We're going to talk a bit today about quantitative easing. And we are going to see a lot of this in the current climate that we are in, COVID-19, lockdown, and so on. And I opened the presentation that I did a few weeks ago with this quote from John Kenneth Galbraith. The study of money above all other fields in economics is one in which complexity is used to disguise truth or to evade truth, not to reveal it. The process by which banks create money is so simple, the mind is repelled. With something so important, a deeper mystery seems only decent. And if I may, the One Academy has helped me understand this statement in so many ways and continues so to do. For at the end of it all, isn't this issue of money a big concern to each and every one of us? And how much more so is it of concern in the current circumstances of COVID-19, and indeed post-COVID-19. I take the opportunity, nevertheless, also to share a disclaimer in that the information contained herein is not designed to be a source of financial information, nor construed as such. We all know that OneLife is not an investment company. I'm aware that I'm preaching to the choir here, or to the converted. But as a matter of practice, I like to share this nevertheless. In spite of that, though, the information that is shared, I believe, and certainly as I continue to engage this process, this information adds additional content, context, and construct to any due diligence process, which we must all undertake. Some definitions. I like to make reference to investopedia.com and would advise any one of us to avail ourselves of this website. There are others, but I like the simplicity and the detail with which this particular site explains some of these concepts. Quantitative easing is a form of extraordinary monetary policy used by central banks to quickly increase the domestic money supply. So we are going to see QE obviously being employed again. QE usually involves the central bank purchasing longer-term government bonds as well as other types of assets, such as MBS, mortgage-backed securities. Sounds familiar? The Federal Reserve announced a $700+ billion QE program on March 15th, 2020 to backstop the US economy. And I'm pretty sure that many other central banks are going to be using a similar model. This follows an earlier pledge by the Fed to fund up to $1.5 trillion to the overnight bank repo market. And perhaps in another session, we can discuss how much is a trillion. It is 67.9 miles high, or 109 kilometers high, of $1,000 bills stacked one on top of the other. It would take you out of the stratosphere of the planet. And we're talking about 1.5, and in some cases, much more than that. Because monetary policy is mentioned, I think it's important to at least give a sense of what that is and compare it against fiscal policy. So while monetary policy involves the management of the supply and interest rates by the central bank, and that can be used to provide a stimulus to a faltering economy, either to speed it up or to slow it down, depending on the particular policy objectives that are being pursued. Fiscal policy, on the other hand, deals with the way central government earns money through taxation and how it spends it. So to stimulate or to give a stimulus to, and we're going to be hearing a lot about stimuli throughout the world, a government will cut tax rates while increasing its own spending. To cool down an overheating economy, it will do the reverse. We believe at the One Academy that understanding is crucial. And therefore, we take the time to examine these things, even if they are not specifically addressed through the One Academy manuals themselves. Permit me to share 2 minutes of this video by Chris Martinson, PhD, on QE Explained.
Welcome to this chapter on quantitative easing, or QE. Here in 2014, the developed world is currently in the middle of the largest monetary experiment in all of history, one that spans the entire globe. This is very important because when you strip away a lot of economic gobbledygook, money is really a social contract. We agree that it has value, but otherwise, it's backed by nothing more substantial than that, our mutual agreement. Given this context, we should view money printing as really more of a social experiment than a sophisticated monetary practice. And so we're going to study it here as such because when a nation's money system breaks down, society as a whole is impacted. Commerce is heavily disrupted, shelves are cleared, careers are ruined, and the future is badly diminished. So what exactly is quantitative easing, or QE? Well, it's money printing. Simple as that. However, today we don't actually print all that much physical cash. So when I say money being printed, don't think of big stacks of $100 bills. Think instead of digital ones and zeros, mainly a lot of zeros, showing up on electronic ledgers. We discussed QE briefly in the chapter on the Fed, but here we'll go into it in slightly more detail. Again, the way the Fed creates money is simply by creating an accounting entry that says the money exists. Imagine if one day you woke up, checked your bank account, and found $1 billion in it. Looking into it, you discovered the Fed had deposited that money there last night. This money would be very real to you and would completely change your financial circumstances. You could spend it just the same as if you had earned it over 66,313 years, working at the current minimum wage of $7.25 per hour and saving every dime. But where did the Fed get that $1 billion? What did it do to earn that much money? This quote tells the tale. And let me highlight that last line, because that's the important one here. When the Federal Reserve writes a check, it is creating money. Now, in our example, the Fed simply created money when it sent it to you. Tap, 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 a few keys were clicked on a keyboard, and voila, your $1 billion was created and deposited in your account. At the end of 2013, this process was being used to the tune of $85 billion per month. Only that money was not going into your account. Not unless you were a very large financial institution. The Fed creates that money when it buys either treasury bonds or mortgage-backed securities, which is what MBS stands for. And the mechanism is really easy to explain. Say the Fed wants to buy $40 billion of treasury bonds. Well, first it will announce to the market, which actually means the big banks who play in this game, that it wants to buy $40 billion of treasury bonds and the price range it's willing to pay for them. A variety of banks will then offer up the specific bonds at specific prices, and the Fed chooses which among them to actually buy and then buys them. These bonds are now assets on the Fed's books, so if we were to take a look at the Fed balance sheet, we should see it growing by leaps and bounds over the last few years. Indeed, that's exactly what we see. The Fed's balance sheet is now nearly $4 trillion in size, and every single one of the dollars represented by that $4 trillion number was literally printed or mouse-clicked into existence out of thin air.
And I'm going to stop at this stage because, indeed, as John Kenneth Galbraith says, when we understand that $4 trillion is created out of thin air, I don't know about you, but I certainly experience a repulsion in my own mind. Our One Academy does have quite a few things to say, though. Level 1, pages 7 and 8. We see the term bailout being mentioned and specific examples being given, such as Greece accepting money from the Troika of the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, and the European Union. Page 7 also makes reference to printing presses of the US Federal Reserve and the ECB seeming to be running without a break. We talked about on that page giving the appearance for stable demand of government bonds. And although the video I showed makes reference to 2014, how very similar are the things described to what we are seeing now? And that video is actually 13 or 14 minutes long, and it goes into how stocks, bonds, and real estate have been propped up by this creation of money out of thin air. And page 8 talks about the new century has already featured two crises: the bust of the dot-com bubble in 2001, the Great Recession, and of course the answer of the Fed, simply to print more money and lower the interest rate. Some key takeaways from the video: money is a social contract. This is something I've heard King James or Captain say, that money is anything we agree on. QE is simply money, or I like to say more correctly, currency printing. As articulated in the video, it is now digital ones and zeros simply being added to an electronic ledger. And I have a question. Is this why cryptos were banned first until something called a CBDC, central bank digital currency, could be introduced. I'd like to wrap up at this point because I'm just about a minute or so over my time allotted. And a call to action. Google the terms. There's a lot of information on Google. Google things like QE, quantitative easing, monetary policy, fiscal policy. I also ask that we get to Zoom formation sessions because we're on lockdown, but certainly Zoom has provided us with a way to connect and or get into the One Academy level 1. I have only done levels 1 and 2, but it is a tremendous learning experience and perspectivization process that I continue to benefit immensely from. And finally, if the rate of change, fellow one-lifers, on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. This is a quote from the former chairman and CEO of GE, Jack Welch, and we would do well to continue to accelerate the rate of change in terms of our posture, our presence, and our position in terms of understanding and promoting this understanding of the One Academy as the heart of this ecosystem. Have a super fabulous day, everyone, and continue to stay safe. It's back over to you, Ivan and Michelle. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this morning.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Al, for giving us that wonderful rendition of and that's just the first level of our One Academy, but it actually speaks of what is taking place right now in our society worldwide. And the information that has been given there, what we give you that information for is really for you to do your own research, because the One Academy does two things. It gives you a certain amount of information, just enough for you to take it and go and do your research. That's number 2. All right? So you literally would have to further your research on these things and see that it is so. So thank you so much, Alvin, again for that. All right, so we'd like to get into our next speaker. Our next speaker, as we say, we are in London, we are in UK, and he's an Emerald out of UK. He's a software engineer by profession, has been involved, of course, with OneLife since 2016. He's fondly known as Al, but his real name is Alahiru Raman Chowdhury. And, you know, as I said, he's fondly called Al for short, and you know why. All right, so we would like him, please, to take his mic. He has actually completed all 7 levels of the One Academy. And of course, we'll give him his applause after. And we would just like for him to give us some feedback on how that was, what caused him to actually go all the way, and what are some of the things that he learned coming out of this One Academy. So Al, the mic is over to you, sir. You could unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, everyone from Birmingham, UK. Obviously, my name is mentioned here already, Alahiru Chowdhury. You can call me Al, and a lot of people know me as Chowdhury or Shaheen as well. I've been involved since 2016, and after joining, I downloaded first chapter, but never really gone through it. And while I was traveling for One Life activity, once on a long journey, I read the first chapter, but never really sat down to take the quiz or anything like that. But recently, because of our COVID situation, everyone housebound, and there are a lot of spare time. So I sat down, started reading all the chapters, and then I realized what I've learned over the last 4 years, traveling with and visiting a lot of events through One Life, and learned all the financial information, either fiat or crypto, which I didn't have any clue of before 2016. And when I read through, I related a lot of the levels that what I've already learned over 4 years, and that made me go through all the levels so quickly. And I'm sure everyone who hasn't done it, if you read every level, you'd find a lot of information already connected with you, or you probably learned since you joined OneLife. And in every single level of OneLife, you'd learn various information. In fact, one of the chapter before I read, I took the test, and I just passed with over 80% because of the knowledge I gained over 4 years. It's regarding Forex and IPO. So I would highly recommend who hasn't done some of the education from One Academy, go through it. You learn a lot of it. I've lost a lot of money because in level 3 and level 4, it teaches us about how to trade in exchange, either Forex currency or in normal stock market. Because of that knowledge I didn't have, I lost some money. So after reading these 2 chapters, I learned what I needed to do any trading on the exchanges. So again, I know a lot of people, since they got involved with cryptocurrency or any stock market, you need some information, some knowledge, some planning, and One Academy has all of it. So that's all I could really add to it, and I'm grateful that I've done it. My wife is jealous now because she's a study freak, and she already done 3 levels. I don't know whatever level she has on her package, and I'm sure she'll do it in the next few days, all of it. So that's all from me, from Birmingham. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Al. Thank you so much for that. I want to say, like your wife, I'm a little jealous too, because my package don't have all 7 levels. And I also I did 2 levels like Alvin, and I went into Ivan's account to do the 3rd level, because I'm also learning about trading and different things. So I want to congratulate you for actually going into the One Academy, because that's the product we sell. That's what we sell. We sell understanding. And that's the main thing. That's what we do. We sell understanding, and some of us didn't realize what we sell. And the thing about it is, we use One Academy to build people, and we are building ourselves. So we are leading by example. So you are definitely an example for us to follow. And Ivan will give you your applause thereafter. I also would like to congratulate, we in the Caribbean, I just have to mention it. He was supposed to speak, but his internet is giving a little trouble today. And we have a retired principal who, just like you, because he had the time and he was recovering, and because he had the time, he had the information there, and he went in and he completed his 7 levels approximately 1 year ago, or it could be a little bit longer. His name is Mr. Kelvin Carabai. So for anyone who does the 7 level, I applaud you all, and I want Ivan to do the very same. Congratulations. Thank you all for sharing.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're here now. All right, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your testimony with us. And you know, the One Academy, and it is something close to me. And because we, being in finance, we actually had a lot of seminars teaching people about finances, sitting down with clients and so forth, and getting their finances together. So when this opportunity, of course, came to being, we grabbed it with both hands, and we relished the fact that we got more information than what we were accustomed to. And that really helped us in actually pursuing and staying the course again with this company. Okay, so we love anybody who does and goes so far. And actually, we have somebody from Barbados, Lisa Green, who is also pursuing, pursuing the 7th level. She's on level 6, I believe, and she will complete hers in a short space of time. We encourage anyone, as we are home, to please go ahead and pursue your 7 levels of the One Academy. Okay, so we are staying in UK, and the next speaker that we have is also coming out from UK with ties to India, Mr. Mohammed Ashraf, popularly known as Ash, is a graduate of BA Honors Accounting and Finance with Taxation. He's currently studying at the college to enhance communication skills, to enhance his communication skills, expecting to return to university this summer to undertake a course to teach finance in college. 10 years experience of working with multi-level marketing as an accountant and administrator. But 2 years experience of voluntary and statutory organizations, including police and health committees, members of the Board of Studies representing students at the university. He has a long list of achievements here. Right, so I would just, he's also a philanthropist. So I would just...
Before we bring him on, I noticed his goal is to attend college again to teach finance. Well, he has been given finance on a platter because the 7 levels will do that for him. So he's ahead of the game. So we're looking for success there. So we want to welcome.
Yeah, so we want to hear a little of your story, Muhammad. So the mic is yours. You can unmute, and please, you just have about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good day, everybody. Yes, like I said, that my name is Mohammed Ashraf. I am actually known as Ash. Now, what I'd like to do is I would like to share a story with you. It's a brilliant story. Now, the thing is, you see, we heard about people like Jim Rohn, and we, from the USA, Brian Tracy from Canada, and here in the UK, we have people like Richard Branson. People say, oh, these people, they have achieved great deal, etc., etc. But the thing is, would it not be nice to actually give you a story about an ordinary person like you and I, yes? So we can relate to. Well, the story starts, it's a friend of mine, yes? The story starts that he was working in a mill. He was a yarn carrier. But what he had was, he had this burning desire to work with computers. We're talking about 1973. So he was working for his, for his dream job to work with computers in 1973. But the thing was that he had a problem. The problem was he had no education. So what did he do? He did not allow the education to get in the way. So what he did was he actually, he kept plowing and plowing. And what happened was he had to move his town. So he moved from his hometown to, he moved from his hometown to what you call the, so he moved from his hometown to London, yes? And then what he did was he actually secured a job with one of the 2 top banks in the UK. And he worked in computing, and he worked in computing for 17 years. While he was working in computing for the bank, he actually picked up a knowledge about finance and also investments. To give you some idea, he picked up knowledge about finance to the extent he actually he found out who the owners were of the building societies, etc., etc. And when he found that out, what he did was he actually registered himself and his wife with all the building societies he could find. And as a result of that, he and his wife made over £20,000 out of thin air because of the knowledge. Now, what happened was in 1992, he was made redundant. And his colleague said, oh, Ash, sorry to hear you've been made redundant. And what was his response? He says, hey, guys, I need to kick up the backside, and this is it. So what happened was he looked for a job for 1 year. He could not find it. What did he do? He went to college. He went to college, and then he actually registered to actually do this one special course for 1 year called Access to Higher Education by Independent Learning. And the what you call the course organizer said, "Oh, what do you want to do at university?" And he said, "I want to do a course in accounting and finance." And she said, hold on a second, nobody's going to do accounting and finance from this course. And he said, there's always a first time. So what did he do? He went to the university and actually he studied for a year. He fell sick, you know, he dropped out. He didn't give up. He went to another university. They refused him. He challenged them. He got in and they said, well, you can do this special course. And if you get first class in the first year, you can transfer into the specialist degree. He said, fair enough, that's okay. So what he did, he got first class in first year. He transferred over into the specialist degree, accounting and finance. So in the second year, he was doing the specialist degree, and get what happened? His son came and joined him at the same university. So here we had a father and the son at the same university studying together. And they would meet in the corridor and he would say, hi, Dad. And he would say, hi. And his colleagues were astonished. He said, hold on, are you really his dad? And he would say, well, if I wasn't his dad, why would he call me dad? So what he did was they both graduated in 1999. Normally, people leave universities in debt. But this friend of mine, he left universities. He had enough money to buy three-bedroom houses cash in London. Did he do that? No, because he was suffering from anxiety and depression because he had lost 2 children. What did he do? Then obviously what he did was his son went to the City of London to become a data analyst. And what did he do? Well, he enrolled himself at a local college to study accounting in the evening. And then what happened? The very college he was studying as accounting in the evening, he became a lecturer during the daytime. So we had somebody, a student evening time and a lecturer during the daytime. Then what did you do after that? Then he actually got a job with a Chinese company to work in MLM as an accountant. And whilst he was there, in 2014, his company was running a special program, Train the Trainer. So what did he do? He was the only member of staff who volunteered to become the trainer. Then he became a certified trainer in 2016. In 2016, one of his colleagues, actually, who used to be a distributor at his company, approached him and introduced him to OneLife. And that was in June 2016. And then he joined up, and his intention was to buy a package for 5,000. What did he do? He ended up buying a package for 19,500. Sorry, beg your pardon, 23,500. He bought packages for 23,500. Then 2 weeks later, his upline said to him, well, you're a certified trainer. Why don't you give training about OneLife? He just stood up and started giving training. And from that moment on, he never looked back. He's been training in East London, Central London, North London, West London, Northwest London, throughout the country. And also he's been giving training abroad as well. The thing is, what happened was when he lost his job in 2016, he had become a financially independent in 2014. Despite becoming financially independent, he did not give up his job. He continued. But then what happened was he left his job in 2016. The manner in which he left the job, he felt very, very sick. Now, as a result, he had a heart attack and he had a stroke. Despite that, he still didn't give up. And what did he do? He continued to teach people about cryptocurrency. And he has been doing that to this day. Now, what happened was, when he left university, as I said, he had enough money to buy 3-bedroom houses cash. Now, if he had done that, you know, he would have received in excess of $4,000 per month. I don't think he would have worked for the rest of his life, but he didn't do that. Now, looking back, he was asked, do you regret not buying the houses, 3 houses, you know, in 1999? He said, no way. He said, because I didn't do that, as a result, I got involved with cryptocurrency. Because he got involved with cryptocurrency, now what he has done, he has set himself a target to actually buy, you know, to achieve many, many millions by the end of November 2021. This goes to show there's a, you know, sometimes when we actually come across a roadblock, we feel, oh my God, you know, we shouldn't actually be disappointed. Why? Because there's a blessing in disguise. Yeah. When one door is open, when one door closes, another one opens up. What we have is a situation is this. Now, moral of the story is this: the education is the key. This guy, because he had no education, he didn't allow that to get in the way. So what did he do? He actually educated himself along the way. Yes, and obviously he picked up the knowledge. Now, as I said, what he's doing is he still hasn't given up. He's studying at college now, and he has a great knowledge in accounting, finance, investment, taxation, and that guy is none other than the man who's speaking to you at the moment. Now, the thing is, what I would say to you is this. My suggestion to all the the leaders in the countries is, it is our job to teach our people 3 things. 1, 2, 3. Number 1, what is deal shaker? Number 2, how to use the deal shaker to buy goods and services. And number 3, how to bring the merchant onto the deal shaker. And if we do that, I believe we will have far more merchants than we have currently. If you think about it, with 3.68 million members, if every one of us bring 1 merchant, we will have additional 3.68 million members. Yes? Now, wouldn't that be marvelous? Because our target is 1 million, and we could easily bring 3.68 million. With that, over to you, my friends.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Muhammad. It is so fitting that you gave that story, because that is our reality as well. In that we had a certain interruption in 2008, 2009, and because of this opportunity, we were able to get ourselves back on our feet. Not totally, but it did get us a certain privilege that no other opportunity would have allotted us. So again, we salute you, sir, for giving that testimony and actually giving us some ideas of exactly what are the 3 things that we need to concentrate on in order to make this a success and to literally carry ourselves into, of course, another level.
And I would just like to add, he just reminds me, and I will repeat it again, and I don't mind if I do it all over again for people to hear it. I sound like a recurrent decimal. That's what One Academy is about. We are given disciplines in finance, forex, the law on cryptocurrency, and also e-commerce. So you just heard Mohammed identify the e-commerce section, which is the deal shaker. If 3.68 million of us either speak to a merchant or we decide to be an entrepreneur and learn what we can do if we are not able to do big business like some, we can buy and sell, we could look for opportunities and do it. Likewise, you learn forex trading, you can do trading and understand, and then you'd have the income that you now learn the finance, how to diversify your income. And then you also need to understand the laws on cryptocurrency. If you go into the laws, I have the law package and I've printed out each manual. And Mr. Alvin Morton also know about that. He did a presentation on the laws on cryptocurrency, things that I never knew before. I had to change my concept as an individual, as someone in finance and banking and insurance. I had to change my way of thinking. So I get passionate when I hear people get involved with the education and understand what we are sitting on. We are sitting on a gold mine. Use One Academy to build yourself and build the people and bring business to yourself too. So with that, I pass it back to Iva because I'll talk.
She would talk. She would go on. She's so passionate. Three people I forgot to mention earlier is out of Italy, of course, that they are doing some fantastic things. Of course, Luca and also Marco are doing some great things and having a lot of activity and momentum in Italy. And we want to applaud you, sirs, for taking this mantle and really continuing the momentum. Also, yesterday, Mr. Hamad Abbas, he came out with something that was very unique indeed. And for the UK, so I would suggest that all the IMAs in UK, please get in contact with Hamad and let him explain exactly what he is doing on that deal shaker, because it could benefit you tremendously. So we advise you also, and LATAM as well, who had their online deal shaker, I should say a deal shaker,
Webinar.
Webinar. Well, not webinar really, but it was
Highlight?
no, a bazaar, a deal shaker bazaar. Sorry, right?
I
So
like
they had an
bazaar.
online deal shaker bazaar, and it was very well attended, very successful. And of course, Mr. Luis.
I believe it's highlighted in the,
yeah, it's highlighted
the newsletter.
in the newsletter.
Mhm.
All right, so we have to applaud these characters. So before we turn it over, of course, to the most, well, I wouldn't say most interesting, but one of the most interesting persons in the network, I would like to also give a story. Last week, over some weeks, we have been seeing, of course, some things happening internationally. And of course, the haters literally find a way just to bring us down any which way they can. And it reminds me of a story. There was this holy man, and he used to hear directly from God, and he was very into, I wouldn't say religion, but he was very spiritual. And you know, one day someone asked him, he said, you know, what do you think about the devil? And he said, that was a strange question. He said, well, I don't think much. All I know is that he's a good adversary, meaning that he keeps me sharp in my life and he builds me. So when he comes with something, it causes me to take a look and really do better the next time. And you know, that is so true. And he said that he has his job and I have my job. So I would continue doing my job, let him do his thing, and we'll see what will happen at the end. And you know, it just brings me to this point with the haters that we have here. And they think that they're bringing us down, but what they're really doing is making us stronger. Okay, so for everything that and we don't hate them. We are not about hate. We are about passing love. So we love the haters. If you're on hearing this, we hope that you learn something. You know, but we have to say that we love you because you give us big, strong muscles, and you make us stronger every time. And the company is basically just growing from strength to strength. And maybe you are adding to it. All right. So we just want to say that, and we are not about hating, we are about love and helping persons. So we would like to get right in now to the captain's corner and get our captain, Mr. Cordell King James, online. So Michelle would read the captain's corner.
All right. My one family, I greet you with a smile on my face and happiness in my heart. Are you all seeing that? I hope that you experience the same joy. The week that passed was such a great one, filled with excitement, momentum, and events globally. During this rough global period, top leaders are holding very fancy and exclusive online events. Please take notice in this newsletter and the next one to come. Many reports are being shared with the company and will be revealed to you. Personally, one of the many impactful segments was a meeting I had this past Sunday with the team from Somalia, led by Saeed Abdi, since he read a quote that echoed within me. Henry Ford said, most people spend more time and energy going around problems instead of trying to solve them. The reason it resonates with me is because I immediately related it to OneLife. I believe people spend too much time and energy trying to recreate a process that already happened and the magic which occurred to give birth to this company. Instead of realizing that they are wasting time and energy on attempting to recreate, they should focus on building upon what is already here. We cannot tell untruths and ignore the issues that surround what we are part of. As a group of committed people, we must push through problems together. There are many things that need to be fixed and will be fixed. I would tell people all the time, whatever your excuse is today, make sure it sounds this good 2 years from now. Wow. Because the child you raise will look you in the face and say, Mommy, Daddy, Grandpa, Grandma, how could you walk away from this successful brand? So whatever your excuse is for walking away from the brand, ensure it holds up in that moment and time to come. If your excuse is they were not professional enough, or we expected certain things with a specific timeline, or the systems were not working, sorry, that will disappear 2 years from now. The reality is that a lot of persons hold on to false promises that were not made by the company. So you hold on to the lies or let go and grasp the truth to the company and set yourself free. Friends, do not let go of this opportunity. Please come into the one understanding. As you come into this one ecosystem that will prevail, you will also rise to the top. My dear colleagues, I implore you with all that I am to do more, focus more, and build more. Add value by promoting that which is yours, since you have an integral part in it, the One Academy. Presently, the level 1 understanding can be applied where reduction of interest rates to 0 is a clear sign of recession. I am letting you know that people need to diversify their portfolios and take some of their eggs from the fiat basket and place them into the one education basket. As they benefit from the theoretical information as educated minors, they will also have a practical understanding through the Deal Shaker platform. Love one life, work for your one life, and let's make it happen. One life for more life, folks. One's out. Wow. Our Captain, King James, we welcome you.
So let me please introduce him the correct way.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, sir.
So the mic is yours, sir.
Thank you, Team I Am. You guys are hilarious trouble. I want to just clear some questions that have been asked privately in the chat right now. Some questions were asked and questions I even received via Telegram or WhatsApp. I just want to clear up those questions before I get into the information I need to share with you today. The information what I want to share with you today, I believe is very important, and I believe is guiding to a particular direction that we all need to understand. But before I reach there, the promotion regarding Dr. Ruja's birthday that's coming up on May 30th is simple. Anyone who purchases a package from the company and desires to have that split immediately, they can make that request. It has nothing to do with any split that is outstanding or that is to occur. It is a separate opportunity just now during this time period that you can take advantage of by going directly to make payment to the company by sending and requesting an invoice from the company, and they will now apply the split to the package if you make that request. It's optional. The second part of the promotion that's also being spoken about is that the next existing split, with the split parameter is currently at 7%. If you wanted to move faster, that means we need to help more people become educated. This next split that is going to occur will be considered to be a super split, double split. I don't know what you want to call it, but let's say, for example, you had 2,000 tokens, that would become 4,000 tokens, that would become 8,000 tokens. So 2,000 to 8,000 free promotional tokens, that's what the next split represents. So you can participate with that. And of course, after I share the information I want to share today, I'm going to talk about the Get Started 10K promotion a little bit, because it's important for us to get partnering and participating with that promotion. Here why. I've been thinking, I've been hearing, and a lot of people talk and talk and talk. And I don't know if they really realize this day and age in which we are living in. And so many people like to dispute and make arguments when they don't know that they don't know. I learned that from Mr. Alvin Morton. Mr. Alvin Morton, thank you. Well done, sir. And I appreciate a lot of things that was shared today by all the people who testified or spoke. Mr. Al, Mr. Ash, Mr. Al brought across a point that was interesting. He said that upon reading his level 1, I want you guys to understand, upon reading his level 1, it helped, it guided, and it shifted his brain. Alvin made points on page 7 of level 1 and page 8. And I'm letting you know that the level 1 academy, that in itself, I mean, all the 1 academy is great, don't get me wrong. But you see the level 1, every human on the earth needs to have that package. Forget the tokens that come with it, forget the practical. You see the theory of finance and the truth behind it, people need it. Why? Let me share with you why. Because I want to just talk about it. I want to share with you why that needs to be. The reason why people need this experience is because I'm living in a situation in Trinidad and Tobago right now that we are closer to Venezuela than we are to Tobago. Meaning that I'm right next door to Venezuela. So what happens within our region affects us. And a lot of people don't really understand the world of finance, and especially the role that the US play in finance, and the US dollar, I should say. Not necessarily the US government, but the Federal Reserve, which is a separate party and a body, but they strongly have ties with the US government. Let's be honest. This, my friends, I can't understand. Take a listen to what is happening here.
Drug trafficking charges against Venezuelan President Nicolas
Drug trafficking charges have been filed against President Maduro.
And announced by Attorney General William Barr. The Justice Department accused them of managing a drug trafficking organization that, quote, sought not only to enrich its members and enhance their power, but also to flood the United States with cocaine.
The Department of Justice is announcing the unsealing of a superseding indictment filed in the Southern District of New York against 4 defendants, including Nicolas Maduro, as well as the current head of Venezuela's Constituent Assembly, the former director of military intelligence, and a former high-ranking general for their involvement in narco-terrorism.
Meanwhile, CNN is reporting that the Trump administration was moving to designate Venezuela as a state sponsor of terrorism. That could bring additional economic sanctions against the country's socialist regime and a population facing shortages of food and other staples. Venezuela's economy, hard hit by previous U.S. sanctions, is now plummeting as the coronavirus pandemic collapses the oil market. Petroleum accounts for 98% of the country's export income. The U.S. criminal charges allege that Maduro personally directed a Venezuelan drug network, which helped ship tons of cocaine from Honduras and other countries to the U.S. The Justice Department is offering a $15 million reward for information leading to the Venezuelan president's arrest or conviction.
For information leading to his arrest or conviction. They're not going to technically say that there's what do you call it when you put it on someone's head? When you want to execute someone, when you put that on their head, you know the words I'm looking for. But that's pretty much what it bounty. That's pretty much what they put on Mr. Maduro, a bounty on his head, and they're accusing him, a president of another country. Huge country that they attempted to throw by putting an opposition against him. It didn't work. Let me let you guys know something. We are in the age of information, which is the internet age. And because internet information with social media, it moves so fast and news carries so fast, they cannot do what they would really like to do. The US cannot go and just dominate because of all the past experiences of wrongs that they would have done before in disguise of something else, which is what I want to get to. And I want to tie this in to show you how the One Academy opened up my mind and my brain to allow me to see the situation clearly, to understand about economic hitmen and the status of economic hitmen. And I'm going to prove to you that you have a very strategic and important role in this entire concept that we're speaking about. So here it is, Mr. President Trump.
Enhanced counter narcotics operations in the Western Hemisphere to protect the American people from the deadly scourge of illegal narcotics. We must not let the drug cartels exploit the pandemic to threaten American lives. In cooperation with the 22 partner nations, U.S. Southern Command will increase surveillance, disruption, and seizures of drug shipments and provide additional support for eradication efforts, which are going on right now at a record pace. We're deploying additional Navy destroyers, combat ships, aircraft and helicopters, Coast Guard cutters, and Air Force surveillance aircraft, doubling our capabilities in the region. Very importantly, our forces are fully equipped with personnel, protective equipment, and we've taken additional safety measures to ensure our troops remain healthy. Secretary Mark Esper, Attorney General Bill Barr, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien will provide more details. In addition, I'm going to have General Milley, who's done an incredible job in so many ways, say a few words. And also with us, our Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Gilday, who you know, I think you know, and Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Schultz. So I'm going to ask Mark to start, and then we can go. And after that, we're going to take questions as it pertains to this. And then we'll go on to phase 2, which is the virus itself. Okay? Thank you. Please, Mark.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today as we make this very important announcement. At a time when the nation and the Department of Defense are focused on protecting the American people from the spread of the coronavirus, we also remain vigilant to the many other threats our country faces. Today, at the President's direction, the Department of Defense, in close cooperation with our interagency partners, began enhanced counter-narcotics operations in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea.
So you may ask, what do this have to do with me? He just mentioned the Caribbean Sea. So because they have deployed personnel, warships, tankers in the Caribbean Sea, it's important to me because we are just right there next to Venezuela. So globally, I don't know if you guys are aware of this news, but this is textbook for the US. Now, to me, I'm not too intelligent, but for me, if all flights and borders are closed and so many restrictions due to coronavirus, are you telling me now is the best time for drug smugglers to smuggle drugs? And is of all drug smugglers and cartels, you're talking about the president of Venezuela. Common sense, people. Common sense. Way before all the book sense that really don't have people educated in the correct way. This is an epic problem. Epic. So here what I want to do. People hear the word sanctions, but don't realize the power of what sanction mean. It's all about the money. So let's go to sanction. And I'll share about 4 minutes of this, and then I look to wrap up in a little bit.
Russia, Venezuela, Iran, North Korea, Syria, Nicaragua, Cuba. When the U.S. imposes these sanctions alone, which is often the case, they're technically called unilateral coercive economic measures. The U.S. is the only country that thinks it has this sort of universal jurisdiction to financially crush anybody, anywhere with sanctions, because the U.S. controls the world's economy thanks to the dollar. The intended purpose of these sanctions is to coerce the government of the targeted country to change its behavior to America's liking, or to make the population suffer so much that they overthrow the government for the U.S. Sanctions might seem like a nonviolent way to make governments do what we want. That's why even our favorite and most progressive members of Congress often end up voting for them. But in reality, sanctions are an admission that you have no policy, but you want to take what you think is a moral stand. So you put an entire country under siege. Sanctions are violent, sanctions kill, and sanctions don't work unless the goal is in fact to bring a nation to its knees. They're a form of collective punishment through economic sabotage. You could even say economic terrorism. Once sanctions are imposed, even targeted sanctions, it ruins the economy because no investor wants to get involved in a country that's under sanctions. and risk costly legal penalties for potential violations. So they turn self-sufficient countries into aid-dependent nations, destroying their industries which can't function under sanctions that make it impossible for them to participate in the global economy. They hurt the most vulnerable, poorest people in society, causing food and medicine shortages that lead to disease and death. And they often empower the very regimes they're supposed to weaken by making them the sole provider for a desperate population that can only think of its daily subsistence. Let's start with the most recent country to come under brutal US sanctions, Venezuela. The mainstream press has given lots of airtime to stories about the very real economic crisis that's caused some 3 million people to leave Venezuela. They blame the economic crisis on the government's mismanagement of the currency and falling oil prices. What they don't tell you is that US sanctions helped cause this crisis and have made economic recovery impossible. The sanctions prevent Venezuela from restructuring its debt, importing food and medicine, and they block Citgo, the US-based Venezuelan state oil company, from accessing its profits. The sanctions, which were imposed under Obama and then intensified by Trump, are so draconian, they're literally killing Venezuelans. That's according to the first UN rapporteur to visit Venezuela in 21 years. He said sanctions on Venezuela are so severe, they amount to crimes against humanity.
Commercial interests throughout the world are afraid to have anything to do with Venezuela. That amounts to virtually an economic blockade.
The sanctions have been cranked up in recent months, with Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, announcing that the U.S. will freeze Venezuelan assets and block billions of dollars in oil payments. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, and the U.S. is the largest purchaser of that oil. 95% of Venezuela's export revenue comes from oil. So cutting off the government's access to dollars from oil will literally starve the economy of hard currency needed to pay for imports of food and medicine, which could create a humanitarian catastrophe. If it sounds like theft, that's because it is. John Bolton admitted as much.
Venezuela is one of the 3 countries I call the troika of tyranny. It'll make a big difference to the United States economically if we could have American oil companies really invest in and produce the oil capabilities in Venezuela. It'd be good for the people of Venezuela. It'd be good for the people of the United States.
It's all about the oil, baby. It's the resource curse. Economist Mark Weisbrot put it this way. How does a country with 500 billion barrels of oil and hundreds of billions of dollars worth of minerals in the ground go broke? The only way that can happen is if the country is cut off from the international financial system. Otherwise, Venezuela could sell or even collateralize some of its resources in order to get the necessary dollars. Despite
So if you want to see the rest of the video, you can feel free to go to the One Life Network Caribbean page and you can see the rest of the video. So here's the point that I'm making. I'm asking questions. I see Alvin Morton suggested earlier that you Google quantitative easing and things of this nature. And I'm going to suggest a Google search for you as well. But let me put into context some of what she has said. The sanctions are criminal. They are disgusting and they are worse than war because it is everyone that's going to be affected, babies and all. These sanctions, how could it work? How could they just put sanctions? The reason why it works is because people believe in that US dollar. And because they believe in the US dollar, it controls 60% or considered to be the reserve currency of 60% of the world. But yet we know the value has been plummeting. And if you don't know that, get into your One Academy, watch what Alvin Morton shared with you earlier and listen to it again and again until you get the understanding. The point that I'm making to you is that this US plummeting dollar, when they place sanctions, they restrict banking because they control what's considered the SWIFT code. So if you want, you can go and Google who controls SWIFT code. And then you will see, I cannot stand Wikipedia, so I'm not going to use it. But even in the Wikipedia reading, in just a quick glance, it says the US authorities have sufficient control over the SWIFT code. When I Google and I go through other places, you know, bank codes and so forth, and I'm reading about the SWIFT, they're giving you the acronyms, and I scroll all the way down because I'm reading to find out. What organization structured for the SWIFT code? They talk about Belgian law, they talk about Europe and other parts and so forth. But here what it boils down to. Where are the data centers located? It speaks about this Switzerland, it speaks about the US, right? But here it is. Can financial transactions be seized by governments on this network? In February 2012, a Danish newspaper reported that the United States seized money from a transaction between Denmark and Germany, A transaction between Denmark and Germany. A Danish businessman was paying for Cuban cigars from Germany, which suggests that the United States is also regulating the SWIFT. These people control the SWIFT. This is the reality. So when they tell banks, lock it down, lock down that country, or cut them off, as you saw the list of countries she had mentioned in the beginning of the video, they are putting a stronghold. But you know what's amazing to me? Every country that they put under sanction, they have some sort of mineral, some sort of gold, some sort of diamond, some sort of oil that they want to control. Because they just said in the video that if the US was controlling the oil and their companies was working inside Venezuela, all will be well for the country. Foolishness. Why are they the world police? Friends, the One Academy can help you. See this and understand it for what it is so you can be the change. I see Alvin Morton made a mention that the rate of change on the outside, that means on the outside thinking, if we push this change, and in order to cause change, you need a weapon. And what weapon could we use? We don't need a physical violent weapon. The weapon of warfare that's needed right now is education. This is what we have. And if we utilize this weapon, we will be able to conform those who don't know that they don't know and help them see the situation clearly. Because when Alvin Morton spoke about the 700 billion, go to Google and you can get all these articles. These are so-called reputable news, mainstream media. CNBC speaks about 700 billion quantitative easing program. What is that? Money out of nowhere, but it's US dollars. So if they print it, it has value. But if your country in Trinidad printed, your country in Romania printed, your country in Australia printed, you're gonna lose value against the dollar. But when they print it, guess what? It doesn't matter. There's no forex issue. Really? Really? Enough is enough. You see, here's go 700 billion. I want you to add it to this 1.5 trillion that they injected into the banking sector. If you read through the article, then if you add that up, that's 2.2 trillion. Then I want you to add it to this 2 trillion stimulus package. All of this within the last month and a half. I'm already at 4.2 trillion. And if you go through the details, you will see it's already 600 trillion that they pumped into the system. They could not have printed that money recently. That is money they had printed sitting there to just inject. Why? Because they're trying to print themselves out of this bubble that cannot be printed out of, because the lie has reached to its end. And the way it has reached its end is with this One Academy, with an innovative e-learning platform that's covering a broad range of financial topics, including trading, the stock exchange, cryptocurrency, financial analysis, asset management, and more. Our mission is to provide our students with the guidance and educational materials they need to achieve financial literacy, developed by financial experts and academics across the globe. One Academy is a highly structured and easy understanding. Learn at your own pace and be a part of the future of global finance. You tell me our product can't sell? The product can't sell if you don't believe. And it's just that simple. If you don't believe in the product, it will not sell. We are the only one that's offering theory with practical. We are offering the best of both worlds. You cannot get this wrong. And because we are offering the best of both worlds, what you need to do is more. Play your position and help others believe as well. The product can sell. Why? Because the world needs it. I just showed you what's happening to the poor people of Venezuela. The US wants to go inside of there, but they cannot, because all eyes are on them. And they need to find an excuse. All of a sudden, they came up with this bright idea that this man is a drug dealer. Oh, you know what? Oh, he's involved in terrorism. Anything that they can use to go into the country. Enough is enough. Let's stop promoting the lie and start promoting the truth. The One Academy is the truth, the light in financial darkness. Please, let's help people see the situation clearly. So I close with this information. The Get Started 10K promotion. Every IMA that's listing here should buy those 10 starters. You're going to get 3 free. You're being paid to sell a difference to the world. You're being paid to sell education like any university is selling to students. I am encouraging you to open up the minds and understanding of people and sell the product. Buy the 10 starters, participate, build value, help the company help you. You help others, and each one teach one. This is your humble servant. That's me and more. I direct you to our calls. That's midday. Michelle and Ivan will talk about it more. I let you know there's learning platforms all across the globe when it comes to learning, implementing. We have these sessions available for you. Please open up your eyes. Please come into the understanding. Understand one life for more life. King James, one's up.
Wow, wow. What can we say thereafter? One Academy. This call today was to remind you of our mission. And what is the mission? You just heard Cordell go through an extensive. We are saying hold that vision and trust the process. And that's why we want to invite the world. We did this in the Caribbean and in our area, but we are inviting the world with the One Academy Zoom calls, which we normally have at our time, but at 12 o'clock daily. Monday, Tuesdays, Thursday, Friday. On Mondays and Thursdays, we go through finance. On Tuesdays, we designate to the Deal Shaker platform, where we have the captain. The captain and co-captain of this One Academy calls in our area is us, Ivan and myself, and Muriel Azama. And on a Friday, we have intervals with either Super TED, Forex, or even Law, or even the One Academy, the One Life presentation. So it's a full gamble of what we do. And what we want to do is tell you, you are invited. This is our core product. And if we start around the world doing this together, we are going to see change. We are going to see a resurrection of that excitement. And we already have it, and we already seen it in our area. In so much so people rush to these calls, and they rush to the 8 p.m. calls that we do. So we want to welcome you all. We want to thank you all for being patient with us today. We know we went over time, but guess what? Nothing happens by chance. What happens, it had to happen, and we love it. We thank all those who have shared with us.
Yes.
And we want to tell you, together for more. Israel, I like to remind everyone, we may be strong alone, but together we are unstoppable. Remember that. So I pass it. If Ivan wants any closing remark, I thank you very much.
So it has been a full program. Thank you, all the speakers, of course. Thank you, King James, for bringing all that information to light. And again, that is because of the training of One Academy that forces you to really dig deep and see what is the true story, the true and real story.
Time for next week. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So next week,
yes,
our time will be 15:30 Sophia time. And that is, of course, to accommodate people, because what happened, you know, the international clock has adjusted itself for that daylight savings time. So we'd say, okay, let's meet in the middle. So that will be 15:30 Sophia time.
So in our time, it will be 8:30 a.m. So
Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, Eastern Standard Time.
All right. So it has been truly a joy and a privilege to host this international mentorship Zoom call. And we do look forward again to see you next week at 15:30 Sophia time or 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that, I say
we thank you. One's out. Be blessed, be saved, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone. So you all could open up your mics and
I'm percussionist too. Deal shaker. From Norway. Pisana je v teh skupinah vprašanja. Slovenska nam je.